a glint of pain.
Today I'll show you the best and easiest way to play heavily modded Morrowind in 2026. Now, if you're a fan of Bethesda games, you might be familiar with tools like Wabbajack or Nexus Collections, because these tools let you automatically install curated lists of mods made by experienced modders. But when it comes to Morrowind, there are very few lists to choose from. However, most people don't realize that there is a third tool, made specifically for the Open Morrowind engine. This tool is called UMO, and it lets you install various lists curated by the modding OpenMW community, and there are lists for beginners as well as experienced players. By the way, if you're looking to play Morrowind for the very first time, stop watching this video and just play I Heart Vanilla. If you want an authentic experience, I do not recommend that you play any of the lists which overhaul the gameplay. Okay, let's talk about the lists. Today I'm reviewing Total Overhaul, which completely changes the entire game. There is also Expanded Vanilla, which includes only the quest and gameplay mods from Total Overhaul, and Graphic Overhaul, which includes only the graphics mods. Then there are also smaller Vanilla Plus lists. You can read all about those lists on the website. Total Overhaul currently includes over 600 mods divided into 50 categories. With a list this long, there are bound to be some mods that you don't like. The good news is it's very easy to configure them in the mod settings or disable them in the Open Morrowind launcher, and trust me, you can configure everything. If you're unsure about whether it's safe to completely disable a particular mod, feel free to ask in the dedicated channels in the Open Morrowind Discord. Yeah, that's another great thing about these lists. You have access to a community of players and developers who are always willing to help you troubleshoot any issues you might have. But before you pester them, please make sure to thoroughly read the instructions and FAQ. The list also gets frequent patches and updates, so it's usually up to date with the newest Open Morrowind mods. Updating the lists is pretty similar to installing them, and I will not show you how to do that here, because I will link an official tutorial by the developers. Now let's take a look at the graphics. I'll keep the visual section short, because you can see what the game looks like throughout the video. What you're looking at is the default configuration for version 8 of the list, with some very minor tweaks like disabled motion blur, but you can obviously customize things to your liking. Textures, new clutter, lighting, animations, audio, UI, it's all there, so I'll just give you some of my highlights. Lights emitted by plants now disappear when they're gathered. Candles emit smoke, moths gather around lanterns, there are blight clouds and lightning all over Red Mountain. Visual and audio effects when hitting objects. New animations for levitation, sneaking and swimming. Smooth movement so that the transitions are no longer as jarring. Music expansions for various regions. And by the way, the new music fits the vibe very well, which is why I use it in all my Morrowind videos. Fully configurable post-processing shaders. A better user interface and dialogue interface. Follower HUD. Your camera automatically switches to first person when you're in an interior or when you draw a weapon. Now let's talk about the gameplay. The list adds the massive new lands mods Project Tamriel and Tamriel Rebuilt, which massively increase the amounts of content, because they add a large part of the Morrowind mainland and some smaller regions of Cyrodiil and Skyrim. If you're not familiar with those projects, I've talked about them here on the channel. Now, you gotta realize that not all the changes made to Vvardenfell are also made to the new lands, so there's a bit of inconsistency there. But don't get me wrong, by and large everything is pretty seamless, there are just some small things you might notice. So for the rest of the video, I will not be talking about Project Tamriel Rebuilt, and I will simply focus on the changes done to Vvardenfell. Pretty much all the settlements have been modified in small ways, including villages or plantations. The core mod here is Beautiful Cities of Morrowind, which is mostly inspired by Michael Kirkbride's original concept art. Towns like Balmora and Suran also have new underground catacomb sections. Even outside settlements, there are now new points of interest, such as towers, lighthouses, gates, or hidden loot in the sea. All shipwrecks are completely overhauled. Generally, every region of Vvardenfell, Mournhold, or Solstheim has been touched up in some capacity. And the same goes for interiors, whether we're talking about random dungeons or key quest locations like the Cavern of the Incarnate or the Corpusarium. And the mod Perfect Placement makes it very easy to decorate your home to be exactly as you want it. Most existing factions have been expanded, including the Twin Lamps or the Vampire Clans. There are also new factions to join, the Dark Brotherhood, the Astrologians Guild, or even the Census and Excise Office, and several others I will not spoil. There are many new side quests, including some pretty large mods, the Doors of Oblivion, Secrets of the Crystal City, Caldera Priory, and others. There are now new NPCs, guards, nobles, miners, faction members. These NPCs serve to add some variety and make Vvardenfell generally come alive. So for example, in the Mages Guild you will now occasionally see members of the guild teleporting in and out, which makes the place feel much more lively. The guards are now more diverse, they no longer all have the same face and armor. NPCs go home at night and come back outside during the day. Taverns have new bards who play and sing.
The wood elves have their rotmeth brew, made of meat and bile. The lizards eat their bugs and twigs and everything so vile.
NPCs also have new audible voice lines.
Good that you found that for me, friend. I'll make that little fetcher pay for lying to me.
Now, some of these lines are restored cut content and others are AI generated, but it's important to realize this game does not have AI generated dialogue for all of the dialogue lines. There are simply some AI generated quest specific greetings. Most dialogue is still in written form only. And also, all written dialogue has been tweaked to add more variety to the rumors and greetings. There are now new passive and hostile creatures, baby animals, various beetles, new Daedra, Dwemer creatures, and the existing creatures have also been tweaked. For example, mud crabs now come in various sizes, which again gives them just a bit more diversity. There's also some new equipment, robes, artifacts, backpacks. Notably, there are also unique versions of clothing for the beast races. Even if you're a Khajiit, you can wear some types of boots provided they were made for the Khajiit. This also helps you wear some special items like the boots of blinding speed. But it's not like the vanilla restrictions are completely gone. You still have to very much think about what you wear, which I very much appreciate. Now let's talk about balance. The entire game has been rebalanced to account for the loads of added content that you will be doing. Your character now levels slower, and you can see detailed information about how you level your skill. If you don't disable the option, you can even choose to lose progress on skills which you haven't used for too long. Attributes now also gradually level up with your stats, so you no longer have to do that weird level up counting thing that I've never much liked. Racial attributes and birth signs have also been tweaked. Changes have been made to the game economy, preventing the player from getting rich too quick. Many more containers are now marked as owned by NPCs, as they should be. Overall, the minute-to-minute gameplay feels quicker because there have been some changes to the fatigue. Your stamina is now no longer constantly depleted while jogging, but you still have to be mindful of your movement to keep your stamina high, just like in vanilla. And there are also new abilities like the new dash ability, which depletes your stamina way quickly. So if you choose to spam dash or if you spam jump, you can run out of stamina very quickly. Magicka now also regenerates in real time, but again, it's not so fast that it makes Magicka potions irrelevant. I very much like the way they've balanced this, and it's very much feels vanilla while being just a bit more convenient. Many NPC bosses now use unique spells, enchantments, and items. There have been tweaks to various game mechanics such as disposition, speechcraft, alchemy, or pickpocketing. There is apparently a new necromancy playstyle which lets you raise permanent followers and become a lich. I gotta try that one day. If no witnesses of your crimes survive, there will no longer be a bounty on your head. Thank you, God. When you catch a disease, you might not be able to instantly identify what it is because, you know, you're not a doctor. Also, blight diseases are now more different from regular diseases. They have more severe effects. The game of 9 holes is now a playable minigame. You can play it in various taverns around Vardenfell and even in the new lands. The list also contains randomizers. These are mods which change the location of some items and corpses to sort of boost replayability. So for example, the Dwemer puzzle cube, which you look for as part of the main quest, it can now appear in many different locations across the dungeon instead of where it appears in vanilla. Let me tell you, this mod is so frustrating to play with. If you leave randomizers on, make sure you know what you're getting into. Now finally, there are some pretty nice quality of life mods in the list, in no particular order. Regular autosaves, hotkeys for lights, lockpicks, probes. You also get a note with names of all the trainers you've visited. Unfortunately, there is a slight UI scaling bug, but it's still very useful. Audiobooks. That's right, you can now listen to books while you're out exploring and fighting. You simply press X when the book is open and the AI narrator will read the entire book unless you hit C to cancel or the book is finished. You can now save multiple marks, so you have more spots you can recall to. The specific number is dependent on your mysticism level, and you can fully configure the mod to make the restriction as strict or as lenient as you want it. You can now fast travel from any signpost, but it will still cost you time and money. There is also a companion book made specifically for this mod list, which sort of lists all the big quest mods in case you need a pointer to know where you should go to experience the new content. Now let's talk about the overall polish, because, you know, anyone can throw together a couple of mods, apply a couple of patches, you know, install some upscale textures and call it a remaster. But if you want the game to feel like an actual remaster, you have to be very picky and you have to be very knowledgeable when it comes to mods. And I believe Total Overhaul is much better than anything a single person could put together, simply because it's made by a large community of experienced modders. The experience is very consistent, and if you were to try and put something like this together by yourself, it would take you dozens of hours and it still wouldn't be as polished. The team has also made many custom patches specifically for these lists to make mods work together which normally don't work together. The fact that this is a community effort just means that the list is very polished and stable, and you can also actively contribute to the experience by reporting bugs or giving other feedback. Let's talk about performance. This is the bad news. Total Overhaul can be quite difficult to run. My understanding is that it's mostly because of all the graphics mods, and if you were to install one of the more lightweight mod lists, you would have a much better time. But with Total Overhaul, if you want smooth framerate even in large cities, you need a beefy CPU with decent single-core performance and preferably added L3 cache, which means an AMD X3D CPU. Of course, your GPU and RAM are also important. On my system, the game uses over 20 GB of RAM at any given point and over 10 GB of VRAM. In terms of space, the entire list takes up over 125 GB, plus 75 more gigabytes for the archived mod folder. It's good to keep the mod archive around because it makes updating much easier. So yeah, this was just a brief overview and hopefully you will enjoy Total Overhaul, although I don't necessarily recommend you start with Total Overhaul. Lately I've been playing more Morrowind Starter Pack, which is a much more lightweight list, and I've been enjoying it much as well, so it depends on the type of experience that you're in for. Anyway, the links are in the description and I hope you enjoyed this video. Consider subscribing if it helped you. Thank you very much. I'm Civi Bless.